Yeah, picture this. You wake up, his hotel room, Goma, Democratic Republic of Congo, shells are rattling the windows, there's gunfire pretty much constant. You're a doctor, an aid worker, and for nights now, you've got a helmet and a bulletproof vest right next to your bed. You're hoping maybe, just maybe, the city holds. Then the call comes, get out now. You're on the last flight out, literally hours before Goma falls. Now, most people, you'd think, would just feel relief, right? Pure relief. But for Dr. Théo Baldé, that escape, it wasn't the end. It was, well, just a pause. And that intense moment is really the jumping off point for our deep dive today. We're digging into the incredible story of Dr. Théo Baldé. He's a physician with the WHO. His commitment, his sheer dedication to the city under siege, it tells us so much about humanitarian work. So our mission here is to pull out the key lessons from his experience, what drives someone back into that kind of danger, the obstacles he faced, conflict, epidemics, just chaos. And the personal cost, which was immense. We're using a detailed account of his time there to really understand it.
Yeah, and it's crucial to remember the context here. Goma, Eastern DRC, it's a region that's seen decades of crisis. North Kivu province has faced just relentless conflict, displacement, humanitarian emergencies, one after another. So for aid workers there, it's not just about medicine or food. It's navigating active war zones, political chaos, incredible logistical hurdles, all at the same time. What Dr. Baldé went through, it really highlights the kind of, well, extreme resilience needed in these places. Providing aid itself is dangerous.
Oh, exactly. So we're going to trace his path, the evacuation, then this determined return almost straight away, and the sheer range of problems he hit on the ground. It's a story about courage, yes, but also this deep, deep sense of duty. It gives you a real window into that world.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's quite a story. So late January 2025, Goma is on the brink. Dr. Baldé, he was 44 then, he described sleeping with his helmet, his vest, the gunfire. Just constant, feeling the city weaken hour by hour. He was right there, witnessing it all. And the political situation was critical. Goma, the capital of North Kivu, fell to the M23 rebels. Now this group, they're often described as Tutsi-led, with backing from Rwanda next door. Taking Goma wasn't just, a battlefield win. It was huge strategically. It shifted control, changed the game for the whole region, really dangerous times for civilians, hundreds of thousands affected.
And that's when the call came. Last flight out, he said, just hours before M23 took control. Must have felt like peeling out mid-mission, Abrupt, almost desperate. What was that like for him afterwards? Getting out, but knowing what was happening.
Well, that's the interesting part. For most people, yes, it's relief, time to breathe.
But Dr. Baldé gets back to Dakar. He heads the WHO emergency hub there, and he's just restless, agitated. Reports were coming out of North Kivu, stories of civilian massacres, awful stuff. So his mind wasn't on his own safety. It was on the people he left, his colleagues. It shows you, for some humanitarians, that pull, that sense of duty, it's almost visceral. It overrides everything else, this deep belief that they need to be there, that they can make a difference, even when it looks impossible.
And that feeling turned into action very quickly. 2 weeks later, it's actually his 45th birthday. And that's when he gets tapped to lead the WHO response back in Eastern DRC. He actually kept it from his parents. Didn't tell them until he was already there, just to save them the worry. His wife, his 2 kids. They were sort of used to him disappearing into these dangerous places, which is heartbreaking in itself. Really shows the personal cost, doesn't it, for the whole family. Absolutely. It's never just the individual. It's a family sacrifice. And his story really highlights the often invisible support system, or sometimes the lack of one, that allows these missions for a family to become used to a loved one vanishing into chaos. Well, it says a lot about these long-running crises and the kind of psychological strength needed from everyone involved. It's a certain kind of person, wired differently maybe, prioritizing this greater good over personal safety, over comfort.
Getting back wasn't easy, though. Took him 5 days, grueling days. The airport was closed, roads blocked with checkpoints, and the Goma he returned to. He described it as hollowed out, just a shadow of the city he'd left. The details are quite chilling, really. Power lines down everywhere, hospitals absolutely overflowing with wounded people, and these terrible rumors, streets littered with bodies. He said fear had settled like ash after a blaze on every face. Just 15 days, everything changed.
And the immediate problem, right when he landed, was his own team. His 20 Congolese staff members, they were just broken, he said, exhausted, gaunt. They'd been trying to hold things together through all the fighting. And what's really telling about his leadership, I think, is what he did next. He gave half of them time off, just sent them home to rest, even though he desperately needed every single person. It wasn't just being kind, it was smart leadership, recognizing people aren't machines. You have to care for your team, especially in a crisis. A rested team is a better team long term.
But amongst all that devastation, there was this one piece of incredible luck. Unlike most other UN groups there, the WHO warehouses hadn't been looted, which turned out to be critical. What was in those warehouses? Why were they so important?
Yeah, that was a massive stroke of luck. Or maybe just very good security, perhaps? Those warehouses held the absolute essentials, things you desperately need when everything else collapses. We're talking fuel for hospital generators, keeping the lights on, keeping equipment running, surgical kits, vital for all the wounded coming in, even basic things like cell phones so they could coordinate emergency evacuations when normal comms were down. It just underlines how crucial logistics are. Having supplies ready before disaster hits, when everything else failed, those warehouses were the lifeline. A totally unexpected advantage, really.
And beyond the injuries from the fighting, there was this other huge public health crisis brewing. Initial reports were talking about maybe as many as 3,000 dead. I mean, just imagine.
Absolutely. And that number of dead bodies itself becomes a public health emergency. You have to deal them quickly, respectfully, of course, but quickly, to stop diseases spreading. It sounds grim, but it's a vital step, often overlooked. So Dr. Baldé's team actually ended up paying local grave diggers, paying them to collect and bury the bodies intensely within a really tight time frame. It was essential to prevent, water contamination outbreaks, especially when sanitation was already shot. It shows managing the aftermath is so much more than just treating injuries.
And then, as if Goma wasn't dealing with enough, a new threat. Invisible this time, cholera. Confirmed on the very day Dr. Baldé got back, the first cases emerged from a UN peacekeeping camp, a MONUSCO camp. It was meant for blue helmets, but now it was packed with hundreds of disarmed Congolese soldiers and their families. Sanitation. Dire. Just a perfect incubator for cholera. Dr. Baldé said he just could not sleep that night, knowing what was coming. The next morning, he went to the camp, saw patients stretched out on the floor. Maybe 20, 30 sick people, only one doctor. 2 people already dead, just watching a disaster unfold right in front of him.
It was escalating incredibly fast, needed immediate, strong action. So WHO scrambled, they deployed chlorine, disinfectant, handed out protective gear, set up makeshift triage areas, recruited local staff on the fly, trained them quickly. They rushed vaccines in from Kinshasa, the capital. But there was this shadow hanging over everything, the ghost of another Haiti. You remember, the UN was linked to that huge cholera outbreak in Haiti back in 2010. Devastating. So that history, it heavily influenced every single decision Dr. Baldé made. Intense scrutiny. Trying to contain the cholera, yes, but also trying to rebuild trust, be accountable. Shows how past events really shape present responses, doesn't it?
And while they're fighting the actual disease, they're also fighting rumors. Word spreading through Goma. Cholera is exploding. WHO is overwhelmed. Also, Dr. Baldé came back to deal with the conflict aftermath, and boom, epidemic. Had to totally refocus the team's efforts. That battle against misinformation, it can be just as hard.
Oh, absolutely. Rumors in a crisis are like fuel on a fire. They destabilize everything. They destroy trust, cause panic, and actually stop people from taking the right precautions. People are desperate for information, any information, in chaotic times, right? And if official channels aren't quick enough or aren't trusted, misinformation just rushes in to fill the gap. So Dr. Baldé wasn't just fighting germs, he was fighting for trust, for accurate information. Required huge effort on communication, not just medicine. It's always more complicated than it looks.
And then, incredibly, another disease starts spreading, Mpox. It had mostly been in these big camps for displaced people outside Goma. But when Goma fell, those camps emptied out in the chaos. People fled into the city. And Dr. Baldé said the patients ended up in the community, just creating another layer to this public health nightmare. An already stretched team facing yet another threat. So juggling all these health crises, then came a different kind of challenge. The men with guns, as the report put it. One afternoon, armed men just barged into the WHO compound. No warning. Didn't matter who they were exactly. M23, rogue fighters, criminals. The threat was real, immediate. Thankfully, the staff kept their cool. Amazing composure, really. They managed to talk them down, persuade them to leave. But that incident made something absolutely clear. WHO couldn't do its job safely without some kind of understanding with the M23, the guys now in charge. It pushed them into a totally different strategic space, didn't it? Beyond just medicine.
It really did. It forces these incredibly tough, pragmatic choices. Choices that can feel uncomfortable, maybe push neutrality, but are essential just to operate, to get access, keep staff safe. And this is where Dr. Baldé, in his role, they called him the incident manager, basically the crisis lead, overseeing everything. He had to pivot from pure medical response to, frontline diplomacy. What's really striking is that reality, humanitarian aid often has to work in these murky, moral, gray areas of conflict. To help people, sometimes you have to talk to the groups causing the harm. It's about pragmatism, not endorsement.
So he did it. He sought them out, took real courage, I imagine, went straight to the North Kivu governor's offices, now occupied by the rebels, and he laid down his WHO incident manager card, not aggressively, but just stating his purpose, his neutrality.
And his argument was brilliant, really. Pragmatic and powerful, cut right through the politics. He told them basically, look, Ebola can affect everyone. Cholera can affect everyone. Your fighters, your families, everyone. We are here to contain these diseases. Simple as that. Universal threat. It shows a key tactic in these situations. Find that common ground, something that matters to everyone, regardless of the conflict. Disease doesn't care about uniforms or flags. Appealing to that shared risk worked. It created what he called a fragile but enough channel. Just enough understanding to let WHO keep working. But it does raise those big ethical questions, doesn't it? Engaging with armed groups to achieve humanitarian aims. Where's the line?
In doing all this, you can only imagine the personal toll. Dr. Baldé described the days just blurring together, constant, intense meetings. Then evenings, alone in his hotel room, while downstairs, heavily armed men were dining at tables nearby. Just this constant low-level hum of danger right outside his door. There was this one detail during Ramadan that really stuck with me. Goma was under curfew, so every night he broke his fast alone, with the same simple meal. While outside, the whole city was just trembling with uncertainty. It paints such a picture of isolation, doesn't it? Amidst total chaos.
The physical cost, the mental cost. It was significant. He admitted it. When he got back to Dakar after 2 months, his blood tests were, in his words, a mess. He called it a real personal sacrifice. And then he added, and I'm not even talking about mental health include, as a humanitarian, you have to take care of yourself too. And that's such a crucial point. Aid workers see and deal with so much trauma. The stress, the impossible choices, the danger. It leaves scars, visible and invisible. His honesty really points to a bigger issue. How do we properly support the people doing this work, their long-term well-being, especially when resources are always tight?
And it's worth remembering, Dr. Baldé isn't new to this. He's a real veteran. Trained in Guinea, in Quebec, he's an associate professor in Montreal. He worked with the Canadian Red Cross in Haiti after the earthquake. He was there for Ebola in Guinea for COVID-19. But even for him, Goma was different. It left a deeper mark. What does it say when someone with that much experience finds a crisis uniquely challenging?
It says that some situations just defy all previous experience. A perfect storm, maybe. Goma had everything at once. The act of fighting, the political collapse, multiple deadly epidemics hitting simultaneously. Perhaps for a veteran like him, it was the sheer density of it all, the speed of the collapse. His quote, "I did everything I could to go back, but I paid a price." That says so much. And it's not just his price. His family pays it too, back in Senegal. His kids know Dad disappears into places where the world is breaking apart. His wife lives with that absence, that constant background hum of worry. It's a shared burden, the ripple effect of his work.
Yet after all that, the danger, the personal cost, the impact on his family, when he talks about Goma, about those frantic weeks, one phrase keeps coming back again and again. I had to be there, just unwavering. Dr. Théo Baldé's story, it's just an incredible account of resilience, isn't it? And that deep dedication. From the evacuation to the return, navigating war, disease, diplomacy, and paying that heavy price. It really captures what it means to go where you're needed most, no matter the risk.
Absolutely. And zooming out, his story isn't just about one person's sacrifice. It really illuminates the vital, often unseen work of thousands of humanitarians on the front lines globally. It makes the crises we read about in headlines feel much more real, reminding you of the actual people involved making impossible choices daily. His experience gives us, real insight into how conflict, health crises, and aid access all tangle together, and the kind of adaptive personal response it demands.
Yes, and those challenges in Eastern DRC, they haven't gone away, far from it. Security is getting worse, hindering peace efforts. The public health situation is still described as a nightmare. And actually, the UN just honored fallen aid workers on World Humanitarian Day. They reported that 2024 saw a terrible new record, 383 aid workers killed. That's the reality, the stakes people like Dr. Baldé face. So Dr. Baldé, despite everything, he said, I had to be there. What does it actually take for someone to feel that? That deep, unavoidable pull to serve against such overwhelming odds? And maybe, what does it say about our responsibility, our collective responsibility perhaps, to support those who answer that call, and maybe even to tackle the reasons why their sacrifice is needed in the first place? Something to think about.